The first time my boss suddenly called on me in a meeting, my mind went completely blank. It was not because I knew nothing about the project. I had actually spent most of the week working on it. The problem was that I had never practiced explaining my thoughts under pressure in English. That meeting taught me more about real workplace English than many formal lessons ever had. It happened on a Tuesday morning at 9:30. There were 7 people in the meeting room and 3 more joining online. I had my laptop open, a notebook beside me, and coffee that I had barely touched. The meeting was supposed to be a routine project update. At least, that was what I thought. My manager, David, started by saying, "Let's do a quick round of updates." A round of updates means each person gives a short update, one after another. The first 2 people spoke for less than a minute each. One person said, "Nothing major on my end." That means, "There is nothing important to report from my side." Another said, "We're still on track for Friday." On track means things are progressing according to plan. I listened carefully and thought, okay, I can do this. Then David looked directly at me. He said, "Emily, can you walk us through where we are with the client migration?" My brain froze. I knew every word in the sentence, but "walk us through" suddenly felt unfamiliar. For 2 seconds, I wondered if he wanted me to show something on the screen. Everyone was looking at me. 2 seconds felt like 20. Then I remembered that "walk us through" simply means explain something step by step. I said, "Sure, give me a second to pull that up." That sentence gave me a few seconds to think while I opened the relevant document. Pull that up means open or display information on a computer. Then I said, "Okay, so as of this morning, we've completed the first phase." As of this morning means according to the latest information available this morning. David nodded. So I kept going. I said, "The main issue right now is the dependency on the vendor side. You do not need complicated English to sound clear in a meeting. You need structure. A good structure is what is done, what is blocked, and what happens next." So I continued, "We're done with testing on our side." Then I added, "We're waiting on confirmation from the vendor before we move forward." Waiting on means waiting for something from someone. Move forward means continue with the next step. I was starting to feel better. Then David asked a follow-up question. He said, "What's your take on the timeline?" "What's your take on it?" means, "What is your opinion?" This was the question that almost made me freeze again. I did not want to give the wrong estimate in front of everyone, so instead of guessing, I said, "Based on what we know right now, Friday is still possible." Then I added, "But I call it a bit tight." A bit tight is a natural way to say the schedule does not leave much extra time. David asked, "What would make you more comfortable with Friday?" I said, "If we get vendor confirmation by noon today, I'd feel much better about it." Then Sarah jumped in and said, "Just to add to that, we're also waiting on the firewall change. Just to add to that is a polite way to contribute another point." David looked back at me and asked, "Does that change your assessment?" I needed a second to organize my answer. So I said, "Let me think about that for a second." That simple sentence can save you when your mind needs time to catch up. After a short pause, I said, "I don't think it changes the overall plan, but it does add some risk." David said, "Can you elaborate on that?" Elaborate means explain in more detail. I replied, "Sure, if both changes happen today, we're fine." Then I said, "If either one slips, we may need to push the migration to Monday." Here slips means gets delayed, and push something to Monday means move it to Monday. David nodded and said, "That makes sense." That small sentence immediately made me feel more confident. Then a coworker said, "I want to flag one concern before we move on." To flag something means to call attention to a possible issue. You will hear this word constantly in meetings. People say, "I just want to flag this," or "Can we flag that for later?" The concern was about customer communication. Sarah said, "I don't think the client is fully aware of the risk." David asked, "Are we all on the same page about that?" On the same page means everyone has the same understanding. I was not completely sure what had been told to the client. In the past, I might have guessed. This time, I said, "I don't want to speculate, but my understanding is that they know about the dependency." "I don't want to speculate" means I do not want to guess without enough information. It is an excellent phrase when you want to be careful and professional. Then I added, "I'm not sure they understand the potential impact on Friday." David said, "Good point." Then he asked, "Can you follow up with them after this meeting?" Follow up means contact someone again to continue or confirm something. I said, "Absolutely. I'll send them a note right after this." A few minutes later, someone raised a technical point that I did not understand clearly. Everyone else seemed to understand it immediately. My first instinct was to stay quiet, but the issue affected my work, so staying quiet would have been risky. I said, "Sorry, could you clarify what you mean by the rollback window?" "Could you clarify what you mean by" is one of the safest phrases in any meeting. It does not make you sound stupid, it makes you sound careful. The coworker explained it again in a simpler way. Then I said, "Got it, thanks for clarifying." Later, David asked another person, "Do you want to take this one?" In a meeting, "take this one" often means answer this question or handle this topic. Sarah said, "I can take it." She explained the issue for about a minute. When she finished, I said, "I agree with Sarah on that." Then I added, "From what I've seen, the client is more concerned about downtime than the exact date. From what I've seen is a useful way to give an opinion based on your experience." David replied, "That's fair. That's fair often means your point is reasonable. It does not necessarily mean complete agreement. Meetings are full of partial agreement. You may hear, 'I see your point.' That means I understand your reasoning. You may also hear, 'I agree to an extent.' That means I agree partly but not completely." Halfway through the meeting, the discussion started going in circles. David finally said, "Let's not get stuck on this." That means, let's not spend too much time on one issue. Then he said, "Let's table it for now and come back to it later." In many North American workplaces, table it means postpone the discussion. A few minutes later, he said, "Let's take that offline." Take it offline means discuss it separately outside the current meeting. Near the end of the meeting, David said, "Before we wrap up, let's go over the action items." Wrap up means finish. Go over means review. And action items are the specific tasks people need to do after the meeting. David said, "Emily, you'll follow up with the client and confirm the risk around Friday." I replied, "Yes, I'll do that right after this." Then I added, "Just to confirm, you want me to update the team once I hear back, right?" "Just to confirm" helps you check instructions without sounding uncertain. David said, "Exactly." Then he asked, "Anything else before we call it?" Call it here means end the meeting. Nobody said anything. David said, "All right, thanks everyone." And the meeting was over. I closed my laptop and realized something surprising. The meeting had not gone badly. I had frozen for a few seconds at the beginning, but after that I had answered questions, asked for clarification, shared an opinion, and confirmed my next steps. Nobody expected perfect English. They expected me to communicate clearly enough to move the work forward. Many English learners think they need perfect sentences before speaking in a meeting. But real meetings move too quickly for perfect sentences. What you need are reliable phrases that buy time, organize your answer, and repair the conversation when you get lost. When your boss suddenly calls on you, start with, "Sure. Give me a second to pull that up." If you need time to think, say, "Let me think about that for a second." If you are not sure, say, "Based on what we know right now." If you do not want to guess, say, "I don't want to speculate, but my understanding is." If you miss the meaning, say, "Could you clarify what you mean by that?" If you want to join the conversation, say, "Just to add to that." If you partly disagree, say, "I see your point, but I have one concern." If you need to confirm a task, say, "Just to confirm, you want me to write?" These phrases are not advanced grammar, they are conversation tools. A week later, I was in another project meeting. This time, David looked at me again and said, "Emily, what's your take?" I still felt a small rush of nervousness, but my mind did not go blank. I said, "Based on what we know right now, I think the plan is realistic, but there are two things I'd flag." Then I explained both points calmly. Nobody praised my English. They simply responded to my ideas, and that was exactly what I wanted. The goal is not to sound like an English teacher. The goal is to participate in the meeting without English getting in the way. So if your boss suddenly calls your name and your brain goes blank, remember this: you do not need the perfect answer immediately. Buy yourself a few seconds. Clarify the question if you need to. Answer with what you know. Be honest about what you do not know, and confirm what happens next. That is real meeting English. Not perfect sentences, but clear communication under pressure. If this episode helps you, listen again before your next English meeting. On the second listen, focus on the phrases that help you buy time. On the third listen, pause and answer the boss's questions out loud yourself. The more often you practice this kind of situation, the less frightening it feels when it happens for real. And if you want more real-life English that prepares you for moments like this, subscribe and keep practicing with me. I'll see you in the next episode.